Hey everybody, it's the Dark Guards and we're back. So it's been, I want to say 2 weeks since the last video. I know if I go and pull the video list out here, I've only been releasing pretty much visualization stuff for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and we haven't really done an actual video since I want to say before I started my new job. For those who haven't been paying attention, by the way, I did get a job. I actually work as a programmer now, or rather how it's actually labeled on my job description. I am a consultant that does full stack development Java stuff, or at least my specialization is Java and full stack, which more or less means that I'm working on web applications. So I'm working on stuff that you put Java on the back end, you put JavaScript on the front end, it makes things happen, it talks to a database, it shows you really pretty things. So I'm working for a company doing that, and then they've got me contracted out, because when you do the consultant, you're like assigned to a client, and that client can be anything. And in this case, this client, I'm working for a big retail chain, so it's a really interesting work. I survived my second week here at the end of this Friday here, so doing really well. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about some updates and stuff, get everybody caught up on what's going on with everything and how things are going to be handled moving forward, because obviously with me having a job, I'm not going to be able to do YouTube and modding full time for you guys, so there's going to be a different change to how the schedule is going to work. So we're going to probably only be doing video releases and streams on the weekend, because during the weekday it just gets too late by the time I get home. So I get home like usually about 6 o'clock. So by the time I get home there isn't a lot of room for getting videos recorded, set up. This may change depending on what we're doing. So there may be some days we end up releasing videos in the middle of a week just because I have something simple or small to show off. So we'll figure out how that's going to work and do that. Streams are probably going to be the weekend. I know I said I'm going to try to do them during the weekdays, but it's going to be hit or miss. So if we do a stream during the weekdays, it'll be like an hour long. It'll be something small and simple, maybe game related, because I still do actively participate in some of the games I'm doing. So that may be what we end up doing, is we may just stream something like MechWarrior or Arma, depending on what's going to go on. I'll have to figure that one out exactly. So that's going to how it's going to be handled. As for the mods themselves, at some point we did make a document for this. I think I have shown this off before, at least in the stream or in another video. I don't really know, because obviously I haven't been keeping very good logs on what I've been doing and what I've not been doing. So we do have this list, and right now we really only have 3 mods that are really being actively updated. This is an outdated list. I need to make a copy of this and actually update it, because some of these mods have been updated, some of these mods have been changed in their status. So Atomic Science, ICP, and Classic are the only 2 mods we have for 1.12 that are being actively developed and released at the moment. So these only 2 are the ones being actively developed, and I don't know why that got changed to a Z. I probably accidentally fat fingered the key. There we go. Fix that there. AI Improvements technically is being actively updated, but I really don't touch it that often. And we have a whole set of mods that are dead. I would go into details on all of them, but basically Mad Science don't own the rights. These 2 mods are basically, I made them for clients and they never really got used. And then Resin Induction and Universal Electricity, I don't own the rights to reproduce them, and there's no point in reproducing either one of these. So we're probably going to take some content from this at some point, but it's not going to use the same name. Then the rest of these, yeah, you get the point. There's some basically mods that are not very useful that are dead. That's basically this mod. And these 2 mods are basically that. We have a whole bunch of SBM mods that have not been started or finished. These are actually probably going to get updated and released here pretty soon. What's going to happen is I'm going to be, with the exception of Mr. Smith, that's going to be something I'm going to have to handle myself. But all of these, let me just copy these real quick, and we're going to change their color just to make this a little easier to see. Do something like that. All of these are going to be commissioned out to people in the community to be basically made, with the exception of this one. I don't know why I accidentally colored that one. So we're going to do this. Pretty simple mods. Like Anti-Spawn is basically the torch from extra utilities. Compressed all the things is something demodded once, so we can compress literally every block he wants in the game. Deadman's Satchel, I think, is going to be basically a gravestone mod. And we're just, like, a lot of these mods are meant to be really simple, and there is already mods in the community that match a lot of these. But the ideal is that it's a different flavor or stylization. So Deadman's Satchel was a mod that was going to be designed to, I think, make a variety of bag items that would be your gravestone. So you wouldn't have a gravestone, you would have like a bag, and it was meant to just be a stylization change, something that looked a little bit nicer. And I think the other thing we were going to do with these is we're going to make it where your items slowly disappeared if you didn't get to your gravestone quick enough. So there was going to be some balancing mechanics in there, obviously configs to change everything. Powered items, I believe this was an interesting concept to be able to convert your power to some kind of item and back. So just kind of a nifty little mod. Breadstone, a troll mod. Cacti to water, a troll mod. Case of Wonders, if you've seen the recent, I forget the name of it, but it's part of the Harry Potter franchise. It's got Newt in it. That's basically what that is. It's meant to be his soup case he carries around with him. Charcoal mod, simple mod, climbable. I'm not going to go into detail on these, but a lot of these are basically exactly what the name sounds like. It's just really simple mods. We're going to be commissioning these out probably for really cheap because I don't have a huge amount of money, even though the job I do have pays well. I can't spare a huge amount of cash, so this will be entirely based off of curse points. So the points we get, which we normally turn into cash, and I was using to pay my bills, but I don't no longer need to do that. We've taken that. We'll be taking probably Patreon, and I'll throw a little bit of my own cash in there. And I'll do a transparency report probably when we start doing this, and we'll see how much money we're bringing in, where it's going to, so you guys can kind of see that, because I do want to make this as transparent as possible, so you guys do know what's going on. So we'll be doing that, probably all that stuff. If you guys are interested, just hit me up on Discord if you want to try to take on some of these. I'm willing to hand out curse points and everything else. We can even talk about partial ownership of the mods, although I really do want to make sure the organization owns the mod, at least in concept, if not code. Then we got tons of other mods. These are a lot bigger mods. Some of these are, like, you definitely got some SMB mods down here that just need to be updated, which I'm just going to start highlighting these because I have already been talking to some people about updating these, so I probably need to start making this a little bit easier. So you got tons of these. These are going to be the same way. So once we get the SMB mods updated, and I start finding people that are more dedicated to the concept, we're going to start getting the rest of these updated, with the exception of Armory and ICBM, because those are my mods. I update those. And work on those. Although ICBM, if you guys are still not heard about that one's getting turned into a space mod. So the name itself is going to be given back to the original mod, so there will no longer be ICBM Classic, it'll just be ICBM. And that way we simplify everything down, so we don't have ICBM 2 and then ICBM Classic, people going like, what's the difference between the two of them? We know we just have one, which will be kind of nice. Several of these other ones we're going to be updating. Military Base Decor definitely is probably going to get updated. Modular Force Field is being handled by Kit soon, and we'll figure out what we're doing exactly with some of these. A lot of the SMB mods are either already updated, in the progress of being updated, we just got to get a lot of these released. Several of these have actually even been finished, and I keep fat fingering the keys here. So we're getting all that going. Some of these, of course, once again, going to be contracting these out to get people to update these with their using our Patreon and curse points. And yeah, I would go into more detail about that, but I don't want this video to be super long. So let's move on to the next topic. As for update schedules on the existing mods that we do have, so there'll be ICBM Classic and Atomic Science. Atomic Science should be getting a particle accelerator soon. We're going to actually probably start on the particle accelerator today, at least the day this video is being recorded. I don't know if the date shows up. Yeah, the date doesn't show up on the video, but it's, let me do that real quick. So yeah, today's the 10th. Going to start on it today, work on it a little bit tomorrow, and then each weekend we're going to knock a little bit more out of it. So it could take till the end of the year to finish it, but I want to get it done before the end of the year. And I'll kind of show how we're going to do the design for that in a little bit here. ICBM Classic, entirely pretty much in bug fix mode. We're just going to be fixing bugs, optimizing down the blast code in it, getting the mod to be much nicer, probably some new GUIs here pretty soon. GHXX is handling most of that. I will be handling probably some of the performance improvements, because a lot of that, even though I know GHX probably could do it, he won't do it in the way I need it done. So that'll probably be how we handle that. AI improvements, I'm not entirely sure if we're going to do anything this year with that, but I kind of hopeful that. As for other things I'm hoping to get done before the end of the year, the plan is to probably get assembly line updated. We're going to see how that's going to get updated or not, and Armory mod. That's a lot of work to do in about a month, so there's a high possibility that it probably won't be done, so don't hold me to it, but definitely want to get the particle accelerator done, so that's my goal. As for the particle accelerator itself, we kind of have a design going for this. So I showed off a couple videos previous to this. This is now design, I believe 6 is what this is, so it's iteration 6 on the design. I put a screenshot out previously of just this top section out here, which was iteration 5, and then I figured out I kind of want to do a little bit more with the laser down here and figure out some stuff with that. This will probably go through a few more iterations, especially down here in the console stuff, before I hit the final design. But I have just enough that I'm going to start on the ring here and start getting that done, get all the blocks done, because this is pretty much how it's going to work. So the basic ideal is that you're going to build magnetic accelerator rings, which will be like this. I'm going to add some visual styles to it, so like you'll be able to wrench it and change how it looks, so you get a nice, beautiful ring. I really want to make sure you guys have the most options possible to make your builds look the way you want them to look. So we're going to do that. But the basic concept is you build the rings, you space them out. The spacing can be anything you want, but it's the further you place them away, the more energy you lose. Because how we're going to do it the same way it was done in the earlier version of like 1.6 and so on. That the particle travels, it loses energy, it takes a turn, it loses energy. So you need to be able to accelerate back up. I will be making it so that way if you put them right on top of each other, you're not really going to get a good boost out of them. It's just not going to happen. So you do want to have at least a 1 or 2 space between them. It's going to be designed that way, but it'll be kind of algorithmic, and of course it'll be config so you guys can do whatever you want. As for what these little arrows are, which by the way, we'll make this bigger so it's a little bit nicer to see. So these little arrows here that we're going to end up doing here, these are going to be defining the direction of the particle. The reason I want to do this is I want to give the option so you guys can make this ring any shape you want. So it doesn't have to be a ring, because in real life it actually doesn't need to be a ring either. You can kind of make a little bit of different shapes, and they've experimented with them. They generally do a ring because it's the easiest to build and it's the most efficient on the design concept. But say you want to make something nice and pretty, you want to make something really elaborate, I want to give that option and make that available. So we're going to do this where you have these little arrows, and you just put these arrows in here, and we're going to be probably doing a mode system too, where you don't have to define these arrows right away. You can, like, for example, point the direction on the corner here, and then use some kind of tool that will just pre-map all of it out for you, so you don't have to do that. That'll be something long-term we'll do. Short-term, what you'll do is you'll wrench these or craft them. We'll probably put both options in, because I know some people like to just place a block, and I know some people are okay with wrenching. So we'll do both options there. So you'll define the direction, put the magnets around it, define the direction, and so on. On the corners, you'll do the same thing here. You'll just define the direction so it knows when it hits the corner it goes this way. The idea behind doing this is it's going to simplify the logic really heavily, and not only just because it'll let you build however you want, but it means that I don't have to build algorithms that guess at what you want. Just to completely remove the guessing concept from the design. So you'll put a corner here, and the particle will go, hey, I need to take a corner. Although it'll figuratively, because the particle will be render based, so it'll technically, what this will happen is that you will have a controller down here. It'll map out the particle accelerator and go, hey, this is kind of the path, this is this shape, and it'll just figure out where the particle should be at all times. It'll build a little algorithm, and then that'll be done. Once it's cached, and it'll just update every so often based on how you're building the ring and how you're changing it. And then the magnets will kind of identify with this here to go, hey, this is now a boost point. So it'll go, hey, we're going to add like 3% energy here, 3% energy here, and so on. That's how that'll design. And then right at this corner here, what we're going to end up doing here, and I have a little bit different version of this that's actually colored in. I don't know why this version is not. But right at this corner, how you're going to do it is you're going to have this here, and then you're going to have these junctions. And what will happen is this will kind of identify that this is a junction point, and it will go, hey, I can have particles come in from here, and once they come in here, they're just going to go out. So this part right here is going to be pretty straightforward. But then it'll have another option that, say if the particle comes in from this direction here, when it hits that right here, it'll go, hey, if I hit a certain percentage, I need to go out this door. Or really, but what would happen, it'll be controlled by the control room down here, because you have 2 particle accelerators running, so you don't want to just have the particle go out this door. You want to have it keep looping, and then at the right moment, they'll both go out the door at the same time, and they'll collide in the middle. This will, of course, be controlled by the controller. Now, the controller will do some magic tricks to it to kind of make sure that both the particles are at this spot at the same exact time, so you get that nice, beautiful visual. And what that'll probably do is be like a lerp or slowdown function to make the one particle visually slow down a little bit, so that way it matches the loop cycle. Though likely the way you will have this design as well is that they'll both start off at the same time, so the controller will fire both of them at the same time, so we don't have to do as much work to get that to look like it slows down. They'll slow down, they'll hit the junction point, this will go, hey, it's time to shoot you out the junction point, and it'll just go that way. A lot of this, by the way, is just going to be used for mapping, because the controller is going to do a lot of the work. And the controller will actually be this block right here, so it'll be a CPU. This will just be connected. It'll be wireless, is what we'll probably do for the first version. We're going to add some wired, because somebody was requesting it. I'm like, yeah, I can just maybe later, maybe a couple months from now, add a wired version. So you'll have that, you'll have the CPU, probably per accelerator ring, and then we'll have some kind of master CPU. You link both accelerator rings together, and you'll have some mainframes. The idea I kind of have behind the mainframes, I'm not 100% sure on this one yet, is that you'll have to have so many mainframes kind of per device you have on here. So each of these will be a device, and the more of them you have, the more mainframes you need to have within certain limits. We'll figure it out. We'll have to get that kind of figured out. But then you'll get that set up, and you'll have terminals and displays you can set up. And the displays will work kind of like computer craft displays, so you'll be able to put whatever you want up on them. You can put up power usage, you can put up material usage, you can put up progress bars. So put a variety of different things you can put up on there. That'll be something that'll come probably later. The terminal is going to work very similar to the ICBM2 terminal. So you'll have that, which will connect to the CPU, and it'll just relay information on this, or relay progress, or tell you kind of what's going on. So you can walk up to this and go, hey, I want the accelerators to both run at the same time, so I want them to run into collision mode, and I want them to build up to, say, 60% power and then collide, because we'll have a system where you can define how much power you want to have in here, and then the power will define the probability of getting particles out here, because this is always going to be probability based. It's not going to be a 100% chance to get exactly what you want, but you'll get something out of it. It just won't always be what you want. And then of course that'll be collected, and there's a whole system for that I showed off in a previous video, which will go into much more detail once we get the ring done, because we'll have to keep iterating to make this nicer to figure that out. As for the rest of this, you're going to have basically a gun design, which is going to fire the particle up to a certain speed, which is then going to accelerate and just keep looping. It's going to have an item input. I was thinking H2O is what we're going to do on this, or just hydrogen. Yeah, I meant to say hydrogen. So it's just probably just going to be H, not H2 is what we're going to originally do. And then I decided, you know what, this is Minecraft. We're just going to do exactly what the 1.6.4 version did, which we're just going to allow any particle to be stuck in here, so any item. And then what we'll do is we'll have the particle match the item. And the reason for doing this is there's a couple options behind this. A, it allows anything to be used. B, we can have a really cool visual where we show off each item particle slightly different. And then C, we can do more complicated recipes. So we can say, okay, if you collide a diamond particle with a cobblestone particle, you might get something completely different out of it. So we can start using the particle accelerator as a much more in-depth crafting system than just being used to make antimatter, red matter, strange matter. We can start to do really bizarre things, like we can say, okay, if you combine an ender pearl with blaze powder, you get like a super eye of ender out of it. So we can have this huge crafting system. And we can also start doing other things too, like one of the purposes of a particle accelerator is you can kind of break atoms apart and see what they're made out of. So we may have a version of this that is designed that has a collision chamber in here that's only a single collider, that you just stick an item in here and you have another item collide with it, just so you can see like what the item is made out of and get some properties. And from that you might be able to do other really cool things. That's kind of what's going on with that. So I think it's about all I have for you guys. So we're going to end up doing the stream here. We're going to end up figuring out what's going on with all this. I'll be working on documents for this. I'll be probably sharing the documents on Discord. I'll be showing them on both my Discord, which we got over here, which we've been talking about gun designs all day. So if anyone wants to actually join the channel and talk about that, we were actually talking about crafting concepts for that. Particularly, I was watching this, and we're actually with the armory and assembly line mod, we're going to be doing a cool thing with this that I'm probably going to go in more detail. But the ideal is we're going to put a crafting system in place that lets you pick your methodology for crafting the weapon, so you won't be forced down a linear path for crafting. You might have like a dozen or so different ways to craft a single gun, and each one would have a different advantage. But yeah, we'll do that in that channel and stuff. Well, of course, the other channels can be used for whatever. So Atomic Science, we can be discussing the designs, assembly line, a whole bunch of different everythings. And if you guys are in the mod development Discord, which their URL, if we go into README, is right here, I will be posting stuff in the request channel. So if you guys want to see what I'm going to be requesting and stuff, that's a great place to do it. But anyways, that's about the end of this video for me. I will see you guys later, hopefully in another video or one of the streams we'll be doing.